Hi, I'm Jade Hernandez. Welcome to Gatherverse News Unscripted, your home for humanity-centered tech journalism. Technology pushes society forward with medical breakthroughs and advancements in artificial intelligence. But what if? What if there's no access to technology? Imagine no access to Wi-Fi, no access to a tablet, computer, or smartphone, and no knowledge of how to make those items work. There are communities struggling with that problem. One woman knows she can help and has. She's making strides within native rural communities, including that of the Cherokee and Navajo Nation. Her name is Angelina Dayton, dubbed the VR Lady. And Angelina Dayton, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. I want to first talk very briefly about your moniker, the VR Lady. I think for people to know how you're accessing change, they need to know how you've made your mark. So tell us all a little bit about the VR Lady.
Well, I had brought virtual reality out to rural communities here in Cherokee Nation, Oklahoma. And when the children would see me show up with my headsets, they'd run to the fence and yell, "The VR lady's here, the VR lady's here." And so I never really told them my name. It's just kind of how they know me out here. And so I took it on as my own because it was given to me with love and affection. And now when I'm at Walmart and one of the children see me, they'll tug on their parent and say, "That's the VR lady." And so I take a lot of of appreciation for them to see me as somebody important enough, like Santa Claus, to give me my own name.
Someone who's actually teaching them as well. So I would like to show our viewers what you've been doing. And the video here that we're about to show shows the community that you've been teaching in, just exactly what you were saying. The people all around you have dubbed you the VR Lady. Talk a little bit about what you've been doing recently, because this video that we are about to show actually was recently taken just last fall.
Yes, so I have several people that I've worked with a long time in the community. These are young people who have led their schools or their after school programs in starting to make not only the technology accessible, but seen as something that can open up opportunities. And so, as a gift, I gave them all headsets of their own. And in some of the programs that we're working with now, what we'll be doing is providing them to families, more than one per headset and a tablet and a laptop to families so that they can access training and learn skill sets that might help them stay within rural Oklahoma where their families are and their tribes are, but also gain access to jobs that will give them a livable wage. And so that's what they're discussing in this video that was created by the Virtual World Society.
Angeline, I think it's very difficult to comprehend sometimes the accessibility of this technology, and the basics starts with having Wi-Fi.
Yes. So what happened in a lot of these communities was during COVID, they didn't shut down their schools because there was no way to get internet access. And so what we find in one of the communities out here, they have the lowest life expectancy of any place in the United States, about 51 years. And so they are dealing with intergenerational poverty and a lot of other issues that are even greater than not having internet access. Sometimes we're talking about not having food or not having heating and cooling. And so, what we hope to do is to make sure that some of the tools that we're using in the 21st century that gives wider opportunities, we can make those accessible so that they can increase their income, increase some of the opportunities that are available to them in regards to their job choices, and then therefore, get the necessities that they need so that they can better their communities. And this is about leaving agency with the communities that we work and simply providing opportunities for them to choose some of the projects that they might be working on. And that's led primarily with the work I do in Cherokee Nation through the United Kituwa Band of Cherokee Indians and many of the youth that we work with there who are eager to embrace the new technology.
Eager to embrace the new technology. And I was able to listen to that video, and I heard some of the students talk about how it created a new pathway for them. Because like you said, many don't want to leave their families or their home And you wouldn't have to if you could access the technology. And that's that three-pronged stool that we were talking about earlier. And you mentioned how important it is.
Yeah, it is, because it's not just that you have access to the technology, but that you know how to use it. And one of the examples that I use is, a lot of people think the digital divide is spatial. And by that, it means I have to take a cord and plug it in, or I have to have the laptop in front of me. But it's actually temporal. And what that means is, in that video, you could see coming soon, high-speed internet for real. So these are communities that haven't been on the internet for the last 10 years. So even when we access technology, there's 10 years behind in understanding things like misinformation and disinformation, or being comfortable using the technology to do things like apply for a job, or to turn in paperwork that's needed in order to gain access to services, because they haven't been scanning in documents for years and years and years. And so it's more than just the technology. It's about the knowledge and the ability to feel comfortable using it, and seeing that there is a place and space in the metaverse, what I call an irreplaceable contribution to the physical world and the virtual world, that you belong there, that sense of belonging and identity that we're hoping, at least in the youth, for them to grow up feeling like this is a space my voice needs to be heard in. These tools need to be accessible to the people that I love.
And when you were talking about those tools, you're also talking about education. At what level do you start, and what kind of programs did you find really were able to make that connection with the students?
I think identity, when it comes to STEM identities, or what sometimes they call STEAM identities, or science, technology, engineering, math, sometimes the arts, those things start from the time that you're small. You should always feel like you have a place in the metaverse. You have a place as a doctor or a scientist. But when we come into schools, usually we start junior high school, in introducing the technology, because that's really when kind of the uh, multitasking skills come into place. You find, though, that the younger you start, the younger kids, the eighth graders that are 13, 14 years old, we recently had a project where we were talking about mental health, and they had the best ideas. They created virtual support animals so that anybody could go in and play with puppies when they felt sad. And I thought, such innocence, where they didn't have the social constructs of limitations in the belief systems of how you can use technology without stripping away humanity. They are the best for the solutions that connect the two still, because they don't separate out um, the digital idea from the human idea, right? Those things can intertwine. Yes, yeah, exactly.
They're connecting it. I want to show that video again, because I think you can really see you can see that connection. You can see the students using the headset. I mean, you said that you just purchased a headset and was able to gift it, and I can only imagine to see their faces when they act, because some of the students were talking about, well, we see this, I mean, obviously they'll see it on TV or something, but they don't think that there's any way for them to afford it, but B, to be able to use it, to be able to really see what is in that world. And for you to see that happen right in real time must just be an amazing experience.
Yeah, I went out to a school once, a very rural school, a very poor neighborhood, and I put them in an experience called Richie's Plank. And in that experience, they're supposed to go to the top of a building and walk out of on a plank and be scared. But they were so excited to be in the elevator. It was just the fanciest elevator they had ever been in, and
Oh,
so
that's the
they
start of
didn't. Yes.
it. Do
So,
it.
yeah, and then some of these students, they've made friends all around the world, where they're exposed to different cultures, different ideas of what is possible in the world. These students were inside of a salt crystal. This family, these two young brother and sister, they just graduated, and she helped lead, her and this student also helped lead students in VR through Educators in VR. They were the MCs and um, the hosts of an international global students in VR show that was put on.
Mhm.
Um, so all of them have taken on roles of leadership, and just with a little bit of help, a few tools,
Mhm.
and just somebody there to tell them, yes, this is where you belong. You're
The tough part of this conversation, though, is what you've been able to do on a small level and in their lives such a big level because you're pushing these kids forward. But what else can be done in these communities? I'm sure that there are other specific places where you see need, and not just through, I mean, it can be through coding, it can be through, really going past this point. But what is the place where people can jump in and right this wrong of the accessibility issue?
The Virtual World Society supports organizations that have the same vision, mission, and goals. But what we try to do, and what I suggest other people do, is to find a social good organization that's doing supporting technology within these communities that allow the community to maintain the agency in their own lives. They have the solutions. I say people don't make better choices, they have better choices. And so organizations like the Virtual World Society, Educators in VR, there's a Girls STEAM Institute. Gatherverse is a great example of partners that we have where we look for those organizations that can provide resources but not direct. Show people that they better their own lives. We just provide tools for them to make their own choices. They have their solutions. They should maintain the agency in their life. We call that tribal sovereignty where I'm from, and when you work with an organization like that, you're magnifying their capacity, right? You're saying what is it specifically that you need in order to be a force multiplier in the communities that you serve. And so you're really looking for those organizations that listen. And when you find those organizations, that's where you want to put your time and energy and resources. And that's what we try to do when we partner with organizations that again have the same vision, mission, and goals as we do, which is to be a force for good in the world. So
That's right. These students that have had the access to some of the items that you're providing is wonderful. What kind of struggles, though, do you still see them have once they get the technology and maybe, gain a little bit of knowledge?
I think that the biggest struggle sometimes is that the structures we already have in place reinforce power inequities, and sometimes people who are trying to help feed into those power inequities. I'll give you an example. Schools are wonderful. Schools are doing the best that they can. And it used to be that we would limit screen time because it was healthy for children. And then COVID hit, and it was okay for our student to be online for 9 hours a day, right? So there's a huge struggle between protecting and giving access, right? And so I feel like a lot of times we'll introduce technology into what I call high need, low resourced organizations such as schools, and they don't understand that if they lock them away for an hour, that's an hour closer to that technology becoming obsolete. So, and they say, well, what happens if they break a headset? I say, oh, that's the best thing that can possibly happen because then you can tear it apart and see what's inside.
Wow.
Because in 6 months it will be old tech. We take our telephones into the restrooms with us. They are not holy grails. They are they are something that we won't be using. What we'll think is old tech in just a few months. And so one of the biggest struggles is giving them the freedom to explore, and we are very fearful that something bad will happen. But I assure people it'll be okay. We used to think that about girls learning how to read, and we used to think that about television, and about D&D games, and I think we really need to give young people the space to explore, and they will come up with better solutions than us.
Everything in moderation as well.
Everything in moderation.
You're the executive director of the Virtual World Society. You've mentioned it a couple of times. It's a group committed to advancing the power of virtual worlds for the good of society. Talked a little bit about that, but you have something really big coming up. Talk a little bit about AWE.
So the Augmented World Expo is happening next week in Santa Clara, California, and the Virtual World Society has gotten together a roundtable of some of the leaders within XR. And what we're doing is we're asking them to come and look into the future about some of the struggles that might be coming up in the virtual world industry and how we can help them solve some of those problems. We feel like we're the pulse of the people, and we'd like to get their insight and help them move forward so that virtual reality becomes a persistent environment in all of our lives. And so we have Alvin Graylin from HTC coming. We have Hugo Swart from Qualcomm. We have Jerry Ellsworth from Tilt 5. If you don't know what that is, that's a augmented reality tabletop game that always reminds me of what Chewbacca plays on the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars. Yes, it's awesome. We have Nathan Pettyjohn from VRARA. So we have a whole host of really top level people, and we really are going to have a discussion about where are we going and how can we guide that conversation to humanity and technology together for good. And then we'll take that information, we'll share it with our partner organizations and see how we can all come together to really make a change, because we're stronger when we work together. And these are kind of the power players and the it's kind of a think tank, and we want to get their knowledge of the struggles they're dealing with from the level of top of their organization, top of their field, and then inform them about some of the things that are happening down here on the ground, and how do we connect those two so that we have the large scale adoption of immersive technologies in a way that's going to make the world a better place.
Any other projects that you're working on with the students? I know that, as the school year wraps up, there's going to be this summertime. And I know that that is the perfect time when kids do have a little bit more time on their hands.
Well, we always are working with our partner agencies during the summer. We kind of slow down, but Educators in VR will be, they have their events throughout the summertime, and that's in VR. And a lot of our students participate in that. A lot of our members do. Girls STEAM Institute, another partner of ours, puts on events all throughout the summer, and we support them. Gatherverse will actually be having several events during the summer that we are very excited to be partnering with them on. And then for more information about some of the fireside chats that Tom will be putting on with like Leslie Shannon from Nokia. She's the head of trend scouting for Nokia. You can go to virtualworldsociety.org and join us in VR for some of those events as well.
Angelina Dayton, thank you so much for joining us and informing us on this Friday. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
And of course, on Monday, what's up for Gatherverse News Unscripted? Our very own Priya David Clemens will speak with Manul Mandal. He's decoding depression, and they'll be discussing how new AI could soon be deciding if you're sad enough to actually need therapy. It's going to be an interesting conversation. That's Monday at noon right here on Gatherverse News Unscripted. That's all from the Gatherverse today. I'm Jade Hernandez. Have a safe weekend, everyone. We'll see you back here next week. Bye-bye.